Ladies and gentlemen, we're reaching the home stretch here. What I'd managed to do though was hide the slide deck that I'd prepared for this in another folder just for fun. So what we want, are you going for a sit down?
I'm very comfortable here, thank you very much.
What I've managed to persuade all the analysts to do is do some sort of awkward double act between us on the research. I explained this in the previous forum that I was in before. So I'm Patrick Watson, Director of Research. I'm joined by Finbar Begley, who is our Head of CX Research. And what we wanted to take you through today was some research that we've done on contact center agents, specifically in the US. So first of all, Finbar, we'll click through sort of some of the demographics, but why did we want to do agent research?
Well, ultimately we're faced with kind of a problem, which is we've got a lot of vendor marketing out there. We've got an understanding of the service providers and how they're working, and we have an understanding of what the consumers want. So the missing piece of the puzzle was, what are agents actually doing right now? How are they using technology? How do they feel about their job? How do they feel about the future? There's a lot of unanswered questions there, so we thought let's go directly to the people with the answers. Yeah,
exactly that. So as if there was a right or wrong answer, and I was quizzing you on it. So yeah, we felt that there was a shortfall in our research. So as I was saying in the previous session, we do global market sizing, so 15 million contact center agents. We do surveys of people who run contact centers. We talk to consumers, but we don't speak to agents. So we did a study. So this is just a really small sample as well. So 500 agents. 348 of them were in Canada, 154 of them were 154 based in Canada. Sorry, the rest were all from the US. Just to give you an idea of how we do this, the reason I wanted Finbar on stage was he did all the research and it's really good. So I did not want to take full credit of this. It's really good stuff, and I think it'd be really useful for everyone here. So we speak to the industry. So we ask a lot of the vendors that you've seen here today, you know, what do you want to know from agents? What do you want to understand? We use that. We build an online survey, and then we output that data into our report and segment it by various different things. So the size of contact center the agents worked in. So as you can see, the majority of the respondents were from contact centers with under 200 agents, but we did get samples right across to contact centers with 1,000 plus agents. And additionally, we also looked at verticals. So 10% of the respondents were in healthcare, 10% in retail, whatever percent in consumer, financial services. You can draw some vertical conclusions, but obviously you massively reduce the sample size when we go down in that. So, but if anyone was interested in a study of agents in healthcare, for example, that's a really easy sort of thing to look at. So what we wanted to do was just take you through some of the key findings of this. And I should say, you get all the slides of this at the end. This report we're going to make it available free. So if you fill in the feedback at the end, we'll send you a full report. And what we've prepared today is a tiny percentage of the overall amount of work that Finbar did. So the report is loads more data, loads of Finbar's great analysis, all for free. So you'll get all that post the event if you fill in the survey. So first thing I wanted to ask you about, we asked about communication channels. So we spoke to those 500 agents and we asked them, what channels do you use on a daily basis? Finbar, did it surprise you that 80% of them use voice and phone as the traffic?
No.
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 Is voice dead? Is that because that's what we always hear?
No, we know by speaking to agents and speaking to customers that voice is still the premier channel to just get queries resolved in a quick and meaningful way. And agents know this as well as consumers do, that when you get the customer on the phone, you can help them. You know, as long as they're asking for something within your guidelines, you can get the problem solved.
And we've seen that in previous surveys. So as Finbar mentioned, we've done studies of consumers before, and I'm sure a lot of you in the audience will get this. And it was Lauren made the point from Nextiva earlier on, Amazon, for example, they want to deal with a lot of the interactions without a voice call. I don't know about you, but generally when it gets to a point of escalation, and our research shows, when it's a complaint, when it's something serious, when it's something urgent, you want to get on the phone. If your house is on fire, generally you want to ring 911 rather than message someone and track the fire engine as it arrives at your house. One of the things that was interesting here, so we put the headline is that the new communication channels, we sort of yet to gain that. Did we think that video was going to be much more popular in terms of the customer interaction field, you know, talking through customers through video issues they might be experiencing for a support example, or?
I mean, given the mix of the respondents we had, I did think that video might be a bit higher. So we are seeing that video is starting to be used in certain fields, you know, to just give direct advice in things like retail, in services, in healthcare. So, you know, I thought video might be a little bit higher than it was. I think if we did this again in 2 or 3 years' time, we'd see a lot more agents using video.
And also, additionally, the premise that will never die, obviously, email as well. I would have thought web chat would be higher in terms of the interactions. Do we think that's? Do we think there's any sort of foundational reason behind that web chat wasn't higher? Because a lot of us interact with businesses through.
I think a lot of companies still haven't set up like a good two-way directional web chat system for their agents to log in and use. I think we're seeing web chat in an automated way, and then when there is a need for escalation, there is a phone call, there is an email, there is a follow-up in a more direct time. But actually, the building of the real-time, back-to-back like web chat system that an agent can log into and interact with the customer, I think is still being developed. I think it's a key proponent of the promise of the future of automation, where an agent can see the conversations that are happening of a system, see when one has negative sentiment, and step in and intercede. That has to involve two-way communication and agents using web chat. But I think that's the part that's missing. Also, I think it's interesting to consider that a lot of websites are still owned by marketing departments and not by customer service.
Really good point, yeah.
And the web chat is not necessarily linked through to customer service in the way that a lot of people would expect.
Yeah, it's just a lead capture.
That's not just small companies. I've spoken to huge companies, huge travel companies. You'd expect that if you spoke to their bot on their website, you'd be able to get through to customer service. You can if you call the phone number the bot gives you. But the marketing bot on the website is not linked to CX in the way that you would expect.
Yeah. So that's just some of the high-level analysis of the communication channels that these agents were using on a day-to-day basis. And as I said, that roughly correlates what we'd expect with when we've asked contact center managers what channels you're using, and then when we speak to the vendors and we say what contact channels are what communication channels are your customers using. So couple more things we wanted to take you through. We had it with Chris. I don't know if he's in here from Vonage on my panel earlier on. AI, obviously, I think this is the 9 billionth time today, and we've got a panel coming up on it after this, so it will continue. But we wanted to look specifically at AI adoption, and I think it's one of those things that we've talked about previously. That what you're seeing on screen here, by the way, is the adoption of specific AI-based technologies within contact centers split by business size. So, for example, 57% of agents within contact centers of 500 to 1,000 users said that they were using some sort of predictive routing within their ecosystem. Were there any of these results, and obviously outside of the slide as well, that particularly surprised you in terms of AI adoption? And do you think those agents, and we'll come on to this in a bit more, are seeing that sort of realization of value?
I think I was surprised in general at the level of adoption of all of the solutions. I thought it was kind of higher than I would expect it to be. But I think when we dug into the idea of what was happening, it was very clear that we can say predictive routing. We're not talking about a really in-depth AI-powered predictive routing platform yet, right? We're talking about some form of predictive routing platform that's not as developed as it could be in 3 or 4 years' time. So I think when I looked at these, I think we are starting to see higher numbers of rollout of these solutions, but that doesn't mean that the solutions that have been rolled out are really robust. And it doesn't mean, so when we asked the agents, what are you using on a regular basis, they said these were what they were using, but it doesn't mean they're using them for everything. It doesn't mean they're using them for every single solution. So they might have one of these systems that they use sometimes or they're testing, but it doesn't.
And as I said, so this is again just a really small, high-level selection of the sort of technologies that we asked about. There's a much wider range, and all of the details are in the full report. I've realised with this setup, with me standing up and sitting down, it's like you're in some sort of inquiry. But we'll persist. This I found really interesting when this came in. Now, one of the things that we talk about in the industry is, what's going to happen to agent numbers in the contact center? What's going to, are they going to be replaced by bots? Are agents scared about AI? This particular question was, what was the impact of AI on their general work?
Yeah. So it was all agents that have AI deployed that they're using it day to day. How that AI impacted their work.
And this might be AI augmentation. It might be, an assistance bot that's helping them, RAG, retrieve information.
Or call recording, transcription, any of those kind of solutions they said they had. So you had to get to this question, you had to say that you were using AI in some capacity. And I think the results are pretty clear. So where AI is being deployed, significant numbers, almost half saying it made my job much easier. And we saw the slides on my presentation before that task complexity and task volume have both increased by for 45% of the agents we surveyed. So that kind of tells us, I guess it's kind of a positive image. It tells us the AI solutions we're deploying are working. because volume is increasing, complexity is increasing, but what, 97%,
Yeah,
87% are saying, actually, my job's a bit easier now than it was before.
And I suppose that
positive.
that is something we'd expect, that massive net, huge investment in these technologies, AI augmentation, gamification using AI, some of the other capabilities you talked about, transcription, summarization, automatic, pull of key details should make agents' lives easier, but because it removes certain mundane tasks, it allows you to up the workload potentially as a contact center manager.
This was my big challenge to a lot of those statistics where it's like 95% of cases have failed. Where AI is being deployed successfully in the contact center, it is having massive impact on the experience of the customers, on the lives of the agents, on the management of the back office systems. Yeah. The fact is AI is being used to do so many complicated things outside of customer experience, outside of the comms landscape. Those projects will fail. But the ones where it's successfully being deployed in communications to target specific ROI, returns, use cases, and improve customer experience will succeed. And that's a big difference. And I think if you talk to all the vendors I had on the panel earlier, they will tell you success stories.
And I think I have another problem with that statistic as well, and most of the people in the audience will be familiar with this, is when we're saying that the study that was shown 95% of AI trials fail, as we know from speaking to all of the vendors that we speak to, the vast majority are small proof of concepts. So the vast majority of trials that are run are almost expected to fail or run into problems or change iteratively. And I know, Matt, you'll talk about that when we come up in a minute, but that's that.
Also a failure today, and we've talked to carriers and things like that, and the simple response is when I tried to scale it from proof of concept to deployment, it costs $15 an hour to run the AI solution. My agent still costs me $12 an hour in my outsourced contact center. That doesn't mean that in 5 years' time, when it's 10 times cheaper, because compute becomes cheaper, more powerful, more available, and these massive European mega centers that are being built to process AI workloads, when it costs $5, suddenly that POC gets dusted off, brought out again. Okay, what could it do for me now? Because it's so cheap, right?
Yeah, really, really good point. This was really interesting. So we've actually looked at this for a number of combined UC and CEC providers globally in enterprise research, but this was really interesting to hear it from the enterprise, from the agent perspective. So this was how many individual applications are they using? So the 3 bars on the left, how many applications are they using during a customer interaction? So as you can see, more than 57% using more than 3, 17% using more than 5, and the number of agents that would describe their ecosystem is very well integrated at enterprise, and I think we classify enterprise as 200-300 agents above, or is that 1,000 above?
About 500 or above.
500 above.
In this case.
Only, as you can see, only 29% would describe their ecosystem as very well integrated. So, do you think that's a big barrier for contact center provide in terms of the amount of systems that they're having to manage? And
100%. I mean, we saw a big trend in the contact center, I would say, for the last few years, where the contact center decided they were going to own the agent desktop, right? And they were going to deploy the platform that the agent would interact with and then bring all the information the agent needed. They kind of realized in the past year that that's not what they're going to do. Actually, the most optimum thing they can do is make their data available into other systems. But this is why when you hear people talking about agent to agent from the AI perspective, that is super vital, because the idea isn't just we need to build a very tight-knit integration that puts these two systems together. It's if we can build a way for the agent in one system to talk to the other system, the need for that integration starts to dissipate. And suddenly you can tackle that challenge where the contact center agent is sitting there and they need a piece of data from a different system and they tell their agent to go and figure out, what do I need? But I think this is kind of showing where we are, which is still a very fragmented landscape in terms of the actual agent sitting there still managing multiple screens, multiple apps, plus 5 different apps for every single interaction. That slows down their response time to the customer. That slows down how quickly they can solve a problem, if they can find the solution, and all these other issues. So I think when you listen to vendors talk, one of the things they're really focusing on at the moment is how to get data and surface it to the agent in a way that stops them having to go into all these systems and find the answer.
And as I said, so this is agents using systems within, so this might be they're in their collaboration system, they're in one place, they're in the CRM, they're in their contact center. We've done this from the UC side as well, not just the contact center agents, just normal users, and the problem is the same. The number of applications they're using is significant. Last couple of key conclusions. 38% of the agents that we spoke to said that dealing with angry or frustrated customers is their biggest challenge. But they did also rank a host of other. When I ran the presentation, we introduced this to Matthew Townend, and he did ask what this woman was doing. She's climbing an obstacle, a climbing wall, just in case anyone needs clarification there of the different barriers, because he did just want to check. But I just thought dealing with obviously angry and frustrated customers that's the bit that's going to remain, isn't it? You know, dealing with the emotive. The things that require emotive response are the things that are going to really be left to people as more and more goes to machine. Is that something you'd agree with? That's never going to go away, is it?
Yes.
It's just going to get more and more.
But the difference between a customer who is frustrated and quickly reaches a human agent versus someone who's frustrated and has to bash their heads against a bad IVR for 5 minutes to reach a human is quite different. So yes, they will. But also, I mean, it's not customer service agents. They don't like dealing with frustrated or angry customers, but it is also the part of the job that they're really good at. Really well-trained customer service agents are good at dealing with angry and frustrated customers. It's one of their key skill sets, for a really good agent. So that's not going to go away, but I think getting people to connected with agents, that agent having all of the information they need, transferring to other people being easy or not transferring them at all, bringing those other people into the call with you, right? All of those kind of things do give us an opportunity to make agents less frustrated. Make customers less frustrated or less angry. Yeah. So I don't think that number has to stay, but ultimately, at a certain point, there's going to be a level of angry people who just need to speak to someone.
Oh, yeah. Well, those were just really high-level highlights from the research. First of all, I just wanted everyone massive round of applause for Finbar Begley, who's been the research is great. You may vacate the stage. Thank you, Finbar. So as I said, that report that Finbar published, and as I said, that is a snapshot of Finbar. All I did to make that report was take Finbar's key conclusions and put them in slides. There is a 30-page report that we are making available for free. It cost us a significant amount of money to do that report. So please download it, use it, share it internally, promote it as much as you want. That'll be made available to you post-event.